that's right. Yeah.
Got it. I got
Yes.
it.
Hi, guys, and welcome back to Bone This Way. Today, we have a very amazing guest. She is beautiful inside and out. She's a spiritual mentor and a womb healer, and so many more things that she can explain to you. But I'm just so honored to have you here today, Grace. You are amazing and just radiate such beautiful energy. So I was so glad that you could come on the show, even though it took us a while to actually get here.
Woo, we made it.
Yeah,
Thank you for
yes,
having me. I'm really
of
excited for the
course.
conversation that we're going to have. And we've done a live before, which was really juicy. And
Mhm.
yeah, we've been waiting to get the right space and time. We've been trusting the universe, trusting God, and it's finally happened.
It has. So, could you maybe introduce yourself for me?
Mhm. So my name is Grace Prosser. I'm a spiritual teacher and a Mary Magdalene womb healer. So yeah, I dive in mainly the feminine healing. I work mainly with women and in groups of women, one to one, on a spiritual level, also. Um, through the menstrual cycle empowerment as well, menopause, really interlinking all of those beautiful things together, which I think is why it kind of makes my work quite unique. Um, to kind of have them intertwined together. It's a really nice cocktail and very important to have both there for women to kind of lean into, to search within themselves, to elevate, to heal, to
Mm.
expand. So yeah,
Yeah,
that is my journey at this moment in time. Who
mhm.
knows what the future holds? But yeah.
Absolutely. Amazing.
Mhm.
So, but with that, obviously, there's been a journey before you've got to this point and to be who you are today. Of course, we are on this
Yeah,
journey of life constantly.
of course.
And so I kind of want to ask you then, like, what kind of led you to this path? Or
Hmm.
do you want to do something first before we get into that?
Yeah, I think it'd be really nice to maybe just do like an opening prayer. Everybody who kind of knows me or works with me knows how deeply important prayer is to me, how important connection is. And so I like to kind of always introduce like everything I do with a sacred foundation. I think having a sacred foundation is super important for us to elevate. um, so yeah, I'll just guide us through. Have a nice time.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, just dropping your shoulders, relaxing, and just taking the biggest, deepest breath you've taken all day. Like fill the lungs up. And on the exhale, just making a sigh or just that deep releasing sound. It's really important as women that we make that sound, that exhale. So we're going to breathe in. Breathe in. We like to let go. It's okay. Just breathe in. Like a nice sigh. And we're going to call in all directions and all elements of the highest and the purest love and light of Mother and Father God. We call in the north, Kuan Yin, in the east, Goddess Pele, in the south, Mother Earth, in the west, Mary Magdalene. We call upon our divine masculine knights. We call upon Yeshua, Jesus, Christ-like consciousness. We call upon Archangel Michael and Lady Faith. We call upon Archangel Metatron, Archangel Gabriel, as they surround us in a column of light. We call upon the rose of life to guide and protect us, to pour over us as space, everyone listening tonight, today, wherever you are in the world, whatever time it is, a radiant diamond white light Just allowing yourself to receive the white light, to receive the rose codes, just in your mind saying, I am open to receive. Breathing in and out, I am open to receive. I am open to receive. I am open to receive. And breathing in, I am receptive. I am receptive. I am receptive. Breathing deeper now down towards the womb space. I am receiving. I am receiving. I am receiving. And just breathe there and just fill up your body. Fill yourself up. Be in this present moment. I'm at peace with the present. And with that energy you've received, just radiate that out of your body, around your body, in every cell, every organ. Receive, receive, receive. Receive, receive, receive. And as a collective listening to this, being here together on an energetic level in this space, in this sacred space, we're able to emanate that light outwards. So everyone listening to this podcast, I hope that you receive something beautiful that touches you. I hope that you enjoy the wisdom, the guidance, the energy, and take what resonates and leave the rest. And then in your own time, just opening your eyes.
Wow. What a lovely gift that was, Grace, honestly.
Oh, nice to
Beautiful.
just come in and
Mhm.
just, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a cleansing. Just
Mm.
reboots you and you feel kind of like you've just had a shower of pure energy. I feel great. I hope everyone else does as well. What an amazing thing that
Love it.
was. That was the first on this podcast. So amazing. So thank you for doing that.
You're welcome. You're so welcome. Yeah. So to your question, what brought me here? Um, it's a very complex kind of journey. However, in the shortest way possible that I can kind of go through my timeline, is from a very young age, about 5 years old. Actually, perhaps before five. Um, when it comes to spiritual connection, I kind of always knew that there was something more, the unseen worlds, the magical worlds. We all do when we're children. We all have that receptivity, right? We do, because
Yeah.
the ego doesn't get in the way. Um, and as a child, I had a mom and a grandma, and as I originate from Romani Gypsies, it was kind of accepted to just be creative. My mom always really just allowed me to be whatever I wanted to be. And I grew up with my mom as her and my dad separated. But yeah, when I got to about age five, my life kind of changed quite drastically, and I was in a environment that was abusive, domestic violence, on different levels. So from young, I saw, witnessed, and went through really challenging situations. From mental abuse, physical abuse, religious abuse, spiritual abuse, was all within this realm of what I was growing up in. And as I look back now, it was like very intense, all these things. And, it's very easy to gaslight your experiences. We all
Mhm.
know that this takes a lot of courage to step into, to to heal and to expand and grow, to not avoid it, but to try and be the best version of yourself you can be with your experiences. So a very long time, I gaslighted the experience. So everybody goes through this, and everybody has some form of abuse growing up, or it wasn't that bad because he put a roof over my head, or he fed me food and he took us on holidays, but it's one of those things that I've had to really, really work on, to know that it wasn't an ideal situation. And being a child, I had no choice. As an adult, we have choices growing up as to what we decide to let in our lives, how we decide to make decisions.
Mm.
You can get in your car and leave somewhere if you're not
Mhm.
comfortable. You can have so much more freedom. As a child, you do not have those options. However, what I did have was the forest, and the reservoir, and I lived quite far out away from friends. So we were borderline countryside. So I was so lucky to have an escape that was so healing for me. And I think that's where I really did start to become safe with the land, safe with being, on the land, in the forest. And I always knew I had something guiding me. I didn't have visions as such, but I had more
Mm.
feelings. And I do remember hearing a lot of things. I remember saying to my mom, I can hear this and whatnot. So yeah, it kind of started with that. And I think because of the challenges as a child, I was able to keep my channel open because one was in survival mode. So I kind of praying was like my therapy. I learned, I mean, I was brought up in Catholic school, so I learned how to pray that way, but I don't practice Catholicism. And yeah, so for me, I would pray every day. I would create, I would sing, I would try and dance. I did a lot of sports and things to try and keep me out of the house and just going with that flow. And I think because I had some level of faith, and you're born into this world, everybody's born different. I was blessed to have that. And I think that's what's got me through the challenges that I faced and witnessed and went through.
Mhm.
And sure, don't get me wrong, like we had lovely experiences growing up. I had lovely experiences with my family. My dad is also amazing. But I have had to learn that it doesn't counteract what had happened to me and my family,
Mhm.
and the importance of, yeah, healing through that and expanding through that. As I got a little older, about 14, when I had my first mens, so my first bleed, which is where, as young adults, we're being initiated into womanhood through the bleed. This is one of our most psychic times, as we're being initiated. So your first bleed and your last bleed. So your menopause is also a really, intuitive time,
Mhm.
because you're being initiated into another phase of womanhood again. And I remember at that time, at this point, I was actually living pretty much alone. And I was creating sacred altars through Indian material and little trinkets and things that I would buy from the Indian markets,
Mhm.
that I would get on the bus, and I would just be mesmerized with that culture. And I had a mattress on the floor, and I remember my dad being like, "Do you want a bed?" And I was like, "No, I want to be on the floor on the
Mhm.
mattress." I felt safer like doing that. And I didn't pray at the altar. I just found peace
Mhm.
there. I found peace. And I do believe now, looking back, something was definitely kind of working through me at that time in my life. But society comes in and tells you then how to be. And, there wasn't much space for being an emotional, intuitive young lady. It
Mhm.
was get your A levels and go to uni
Yeah.
and be a success. And so that's what I did. And even though I studied sociology, so I did study people and like social environments because I was so interested in it. It was still very linear and very masculinized, and there wasn't much space for me to be me.
Mhm.
So I stopped being me, and I ended up in the sex industry on Babe Station, which was an amazing experience. I think I ended up going the opposite way. So I ended up sort of like rebelling, and yeah, there was this trauma part of me that was wanting attention, was wanting validation, that was wanting to be seen and heard and loved. And
Mhm.
I was addicted to drama and shame. And what are the best ways to feed your addiction to shame? Sex, alcohol,
Mhm.
you know, toxic relationships, all those things we feed ourselves with. And that's what I did for a very long time. In the end, I just had a spark of inspiration, and I don't even know where it came from. When I was a teenager, I used to design my own bikinis at school
Mhm.
because I had no boobs, and I used to like buy the padding and sew the padding in and make little things. And it was really, really cute. And in the end, I was like, I want to create swimwear. So I opened up a swimwear brand, started designing. That went really big. Had a partner at the time, um, was earning the money, had the house, the car, everything that I'd built this life around, but I was empty.
Yeah.
I knew I wasn't in the right relationship. I couldn't express the way I wanted to express. I was trying to find different outlets to express, especially through like clothing and things, which is always a great way for us to express, right? But it was very
Absolutely.
suppressed.
Mm.
My boyfriend at the time didn't like the way that I was trying to express and dress. And, and I think when you have, you know, like beauty as well, there was also that was very difficult for us to navigate in the relationship. So, and eventually that relationship broke down. I was having really terrible episodes of depression and outbursts emotionally. I hadn't dealt with my childhood,
Mhm.
and I knew that it was bubbling up for me to deal with, but I was just ignoring it. And my partner was unable to understand. And that's not his fault, right? It's
Mhm.
some of these subjects are really dark.
Yeah.
So it's hard for a man that loves you to even want to know what happened as a child because they couldn't protect you. So
Mm.
I know it wasn't his fault, but I knew that it was time that ended.
Mhm.
And again, I ignored it until I pushed him away. He pushed me away, and it became that whole thing. And then he ended up actually having an affair with a friend of mine, and you know, praise to them. They have a child. They're still together. It's amazing. I couldn't give him that. I didn't want to.
Yeah.
But it was pretty hard to deal with.
Mhm.
I had to leave the safety that I'd built in this house with these people that I'd never had before.
Mhm.
And about in the 2 years, my company then went into liquidation. So I pretty much went bankrupt.
Mhm.
Um, I was smoking, I was drinking. I entered into a really toxic relationship pretty much straight away. And I didn't realize the severe effects that had had on me.
Yeah.
Um, Luckily, I actually fell in love after that. And that kind of was like a bit of a savior in a way
Oh,
from this toxic relationship, even though it wasn't a healthy one. It was almost like I needed to fall in love, to open my heart, to get
yeah.
vulnerable.
Mhm.
And that's when the healing work started, was because that relationship didn't work out. And that was the one that really broke my heart a lot. And then the year after, my sister was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and then she passed 6 months later. And I actually had a baby loss as well within the same like three
Oh,
weeks. Yeah, so
wow.
it was a real it was like, I know God was like, I'm clearing everything out, like everything,
Really? Yeah.
Grace. Like,
Wow.
there is no
That's a
messy
lot.
human on earth to not have this stuff. So it's taken like 5, 6 years to really dive deep. And still now, like, I have things that come up, and I'm still owning all those parts of me that feel ashamed or feel weak or
Mhm,
feel sometimes unlovable
mhm.
because of what I've been through, because I get triggered easily.
Of course.
I
Yeah.
do. I'm going to. I had 15 years of being in this, abusive environment.
Mhm.
So I've had to really learn how to do that. And the one thing that I started obviously to do was my spiritual practice. This was actually before all the madness hit. It was actually when I was with my ex partner, in my mid 20s. And I remember sitting in the bath, going to meditate, and my three angel guides came and they just started teaching me how to heal my body.
Wow.
Um, I painted them there on the top landing in my house.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and so I started developing different spiritual techniques, and you know, uh, connecting to my guides and shamanic healing, and working back with the forest again, like
Mhm.
a really beautiful forest that I work with. And I believe that that was like a bit of a mystery school for me to go into that forest. And I believe I was kind of channeling and learning a lot of things there. And so, yeah, eventually that kind of grew. I started to teach meditation, spiritual practices, which I still do now.
Mhm.
And then I just ended up landing into womb healing. It was just something that happened. And then so here I am, like fast forward all this time. And the one thing that obviously gets me through every day is my
Oh, frozen.
spiritual practice, my connection to, yeah, my connection to my inner God, my connection to my inner light. That's the thing that gets me through that deep foundation spiritual practice.
Mhm.
And then the one thing that really expanded me was the womb healing. So the menstrual cycle empowerment, learning how to connect to my womb, learning how to heal the womb space. All of it is generated to every part of us as a
Mhm.
woman. So it enables you to start really truly accepting yourself. And that journey has been obviously challenging at times, but very liberating. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. I was just like listening to you because I just wanted you to like tell us, and I didn't want to interject with anything because what you are, you're sharing your story, but like, so many people could be listening thinking, well, I've been through so much. And and using that as like a mask to not do the work and
Mm.
not allowing themselves, because sometimes we can hold on to the darkness because it feels safer that way because it's all we could know. But this is kind of like, if anyone's listening, just to remind you that you can then see the light again, and
Mm.
and you'll still get triggered at times. You'll still have tough times, but we need to live this life fully. And by understanding ourselves and why we feel a certain way and things that happen, it's not because you're being punished, it's just happening. And so there's things that you can do, and people like Grace that can kind of guide you through those things.
Yeah, exactly. Beautifully put. And I think that's why the womb work is so great as well, because the cycle of the feminine, like the feminine is death and rebirth. This is what women represent. We represent the death and we
Mhm.
represent birth. That's why we have a menstrual cycle where we bleed out. We in that part, in that phase of our cycle, we are dying. We are releasing every single part of us we ever knew.
Mhm.
And then we rebirth as the cycle moves into ovulation.
Mhm.
And this is why it's so powerful when you connect to this rhythm of your feminine flow, which I like to call the feminine language of women, the flow.
Mhm.
It's a language we get to learn about ourselves. It's a language we get to discover, and it's exciting. It's also very healing and accepting. There's no right or wrong or better or worse. And
Mhm.
you start to realize that actually, even though I felt like I don't belong in this society as a woman with perhaps all of this stuff, all of this trauma that I've held for generations,
Mhm.
it allows us to give ourselves space to be like, okay, I can see the light. Like you said, I can see those summer days,
Mhm.
through the cycle, but I'm still
Mhm.
going to have that death phase.
Yeah.
And the more we get used to working with the cycle, the feminine rhythm,
Mhm.
the easier it gets to heal our past traumas, the
Mhm.
easier it gets to accept them, but not fix ourselves,
Mhm.
but accept them.
Yeah.
And that means then you stop putting yourself down as much.
Mhm.
And it means that it's a forever thing. This is
Mhm.
what we are as women. It's not God's curse, it's God's blessing for us to be able to birth new life. And the moment women kind of really come back into that divine, innate wisdom that they have been gifted with, wow, I mean, it's one thing being a man on this earth. I love men, but having the gift to give birth or
Yeah.
to even just be born with a womb
Mhm.
and a cycle is every soul's dream that wants to come down on earth.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
you know,
magic.
yeah, it's magical.
It is. And I think that we've just been in this, society, of course, where we've been kind of like it's been taken away from us to think it's a, such a magical, creative thing. It's the most creative thing, of course. And it's like that, it's a man's world kind of thing. And like I said, you love men and that isn't about that. But we've been kind of brainwashed to think that, oh, we aren't as powerful, but we are so powerful.
So powerful. We really are.
Yeah.
So anyone listening that is faced with trauma or is facing something really dark, really hard, really stuck, really sticky, you don't have to go straight dive into it. You can really start with your relationship with your cycle.
Mhm.
It can be as simple as just tuning in to your innate feminine design,
Mhm.
because the feminine is also the healer. She's the intuitive healer, as well as the divine masculine being the healer. The feminine brings the intuition, she brings the flow, she brings, that those hidden worlds within you to the
Mhm.
surface for you to explore, you know, the sensuality and the beauty in life.
Mhm.
So, like you said, we've been operating from something that's actually told us to go against our natural flow, against our natural rhythm, to try and fit in a 24-hour clock.
Mhm.
Yet, for women, the most powerful, expansive, healing place you can be operating from, and I don't mean every day because that's impossible, is through uh, that cycle, that feminine flow, that feminine language of women. And you'll see in the cycle that there are phases of each week and through the month where you are naturally more masculine
Mhm.
and you are naturally more feminine,
Mhm.
because we have to be in balance of both. Being a woman with a womb doesn't mean always being in your feminine flow. You wouldn't
Mhm.
get anything done. And so it's a great map to
Mhm.
really help not only like trauma healing, fertility, it's great
Mhm.
for relationships, communication.
Mhm.
It's I believe because we're created from it, it is literally
Mhm.
the framework.
I saw that you said, I think it was in another podcast where you said about how you should express about your cycle to your partner.
Hmm.
So could you like say how that is really important too?
Yeah, wow, I love this subject. So the cycle in relationships is so profound. And I've through clients that I've had, I've seen their transformations with their partner, and like where they've been moaning about their male partners. And then after the 6 weeks of our time together, their men are showing up for them in ways that they were like, I never knew this was possible.
Mhm.
And it's purely because men tend to respond to like the feminine. They will kind of respond. Even the men are natural leaders and protectors. They're still responding to like the energy that is going on around them,
Mhm.
and they're responding. So when we learn the pattern of our cycle, we can start to learn how to communicate, mainly how to use our voice, because the voice and the womb are directly created,
Mhm.
connected. So when we use the voice connected to the womb, we're able to create new realities. We're able to create relationships through our voice. We're able to ask what we need. We're able to express boundaries. We're able to say no. We're able to, you know, sing and dance. And what a lot of women forget is the way that a baby is created through sex. You will use your voice because you are feeling pleasure. The way a baby is born is also expressed through a woman's voice. She screams or she grunts. It's all really interlinked.
Yeah.
So communication is really amazing that comes up with the menstrual cycle.
Mm.
So for example, I had a client that was in her ovulation week, and in our ovulation week we can be um, our sex drive is much higher. We're more in our masculine energy in this week of the cycle. We're more in that energetic frequency. Our energy is higher. Our hormones are more balanced. And so we're able to get things done. We're able to tell people what we want or what we need.
Mhm.
However, we can be quite dismissive in this week if we're not careful. So
Mhm.
it's the week where it's all about me. I'm feeling really good. My hormones are really good right now. Nothing's bothering me. Like the house can probably be a mess this week and you don't even care.
Mhm.
Like you're just like, all about me. I'm feeling great. And what we can do is we can neglect our partners in this week, because the other parts of the month, we don't have that emotional or energetic balance. So we're really just trying to hold on to this beautiful part of the flow, and we can neglect our partners in this time. And I remember a client saying to me, oh, my partner came to me and he hurt his knee. And I've witnessed it in other people where their partner is, I'm watching and I said, I think he wants your attention. And then, a friend has said, what makes you say that? And I was like, what phase of your cycle are you in? She's at ovulation. I was like, you're not giving him the attention that you usually would. So
Oh,
it's really good. It's really fun to like
yeah.
observe how men will crave for your attention more in ovulation,
Mm.
because naturally we don't really give them anything.
It's like the pullback time.
Yeah, and it's a really good thing to witness because they need us too, right? They need filling up too. They're still human beings with
Mhm.
emotions. They still have stress, they still have responsibility. And so this week it's really great for women to, ask their partner what they want to do.
Mhm.
Ask their partner to get involved with things. You can experiment more sexually or go on an adventure together. ask him if he wants to express anything, because you've got the energy to hold more in this week.
Mhm.
You've got the energy to overpour, you've got the energy to overgive. It's the one week where we can overgive because we're coming from a pouring light of ovulation. That's what it's designed to do.
Okay.
So we shine our light like the full moon, so we're
Mhm.
bright. And so
Oh.
I would advise any woman in this week to really just check if they are paying attention to their partner. Because if you fill him up in this week, next week when you are on your premenstrual phase, he's full. You know,
Mhm.
he's feeling better. He might be able to provide for you in a different way.
Mhm.
You know, he might be able to show up for you in a different way. And not only that, he'll naturally want
Want
to,
to. Yeah.
because you fed him too.
Mhm.
You know, and it's just a
The
natural
balance.
way of the dance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, of course.
Yeah. So how would it work then? So say if someone doesn't have a cycle, or
Right.
they're gone through the menopause and they don't have a cycle anymore. Like how
Yeah.
can you still tap into that energy? Because obviously that energy is still there, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So one of my clients, she was on the pill. But you know, we went through the stages still,
Mhm.
and you look at the moon phase. So
Okay.
you'll want to go off the moon phases. So a full moon is your ovulation phase,
Mhm.
and your new moon is where you would bleed.
Okay.
So I know, like, for example, my mom, I always remind her, Mom, it's a new moon, like this is where you would be bleeding, or you might be feeling this way, Mom, because we're coming up to a new moon, so this would naturally be your premenstrual phase,
Mhm.
you know, so bear that in mind.
Mhm.
So with the work that I do, if I'm working with women that are in the menopause, don't have a bleed, or are on the pill,
Mhm.
then we work through the moon phases, and we then gather together throughout the time we spend together. You start to get the pattern, right? It
Yeah.
starts to show, it starts to flow,
Mhm.
and eventually you can really start to lean into that, because the energy is
Mhm.
still there. We all
Yeah.
still have, you know, a flowing energy.
Mhm.
So that's what I would suggest for anyone who no longer has a bleed,
Mhm.
or is, you know, challenged with their bleed, or is in the menopause.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
don't shame yourself or put
Yeah.
yourself down. Like, we've not been taught this stuff.
No, we haven't. We have no idea. And it's like, but then when you say it, it all makes sense. And it
Mm,
feels like ancient. It's like ancient knowledge that we all actually do know.
so ancient,
Yeah.
so ancient.
We're like
It's
witches.
Yeah, it's like ancient witchy golden map of life.
Mhm.
It's so majestic and mysterious, and
Yeah.
it's like, there's this phrase that I love that Megan Watterson says, and she's like, it's so beautifully distressing.
Mm.
Like, it's
Love.
distressing, but it's
Yeah.
beautiful,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know? Because the
Yeah.
feminine isn't linear.
No.
She just, it's just not.
It's literally like all the seasons each
Mhm.
month then,
Yeah,
we go through that.
yeah, every
Yeah.
single month.
Wow. So
Yeah.
that that is so, and it will be so helpful for so many people to hear that because
Mm,
you could think, why am I feeling crazy this month? Or why am I feeling like agitated or so emotional? Obviously, we know that we can connect it to our cycle, but sometimes we can forget because we're just in this world of go, go, go and not connecting with ourselves. So sometimes we just have to bring it back inward, don't we? And
yeah.
actually ask ourselves even what we need.
Exactly. And that's why I designed the divine cycle, because apps are great, but apps are not, you can't rely on an app. It's linear again.
Hmm.
You know, you just like the bleed, you can ovulate at different times every month. If the
Hmm.
app is saying you're going to ovulate on this day, that's not accurate. Your body doesn't work like that. You might ovulate 2 days before or 2 days after,
Yeah.
you know? And so getting to know your own rhythm is so important. But
Hmm.
these certain apps, they're trying to put us in boxes again. They're
Mm.
trying to tell us how we feel. They're giving us a tick box of, okay, I'm feeling moody this day or happy this day. And they're not asking us to go in and ask us what we feel.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so when I was moving through it, because I'm such an emotional woman, I wanted to learn how I felt and how to deal with it, as well as traumas and triggers that came up.
Mhm.
And then I designed the divine cycle. So it gives you a linear structure, of
Mhm.
course, with dates and science. But it also is designed with specific journal prompts every single week of your phase
Mhm.
that lean you in to knowing your true self from yourself, not from anybody else telling you. You're discovering it about yourself.
Mm.
And there's healing modalities, and there is, sacred rituals to release,
Mhm.
because again, a lot of the time we can blame the cycle as
Mhm.
well.
Yeah.
And if the cycle's bringing up triggers and emotions and anxiety for you, we still have to look at what they are.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
it's the way it's talking to us.
Yeah. Yeah, because those feelings are there and they're valid and there will be a reason for it. Instead
Yes,
of I suppose instead of just saying, "Oh, it's because I'm in this
yes.
phase." Like,
And
okay, we
they'll
still
repeat.
yeah.
They'll keep repeating the next month. So
Mhm.
you'll have the same feeling next month
Mhm.
and the next month, until you sit in that phase of your cycle and you start to learn how to move with it. And that's why the divine cycles, it's not too much, it's not too heavy, it's
Yeah.
just enough for you to just move through. And the sacred ritual on the release is so powerful, because you know what you're releasing with your shedding process, that death
Mhm.
process that is taking part with your bleed or with
Mhm.
the new moon.
Mhm.
So then you can start to birth the new into the next month.
Yeah.
Every single month we get this opportunity.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really beautiful.
So how can people contact you about the divine cycle?
Yeah, so they can, check out my website, my social media. I do it as a self-paced course, and I do it as a one-to-one mentorship. And then I also do retreats here and there where we do a lot of womb work. So there are different stages you can work with me. I've put them into like 3 stages. We have the glistening feminine, the luminous feminine, and the radiant feminine. This is going to require a different kind of level of devotion, a different level of healing, the deeper you go, and a different level of financial investment. So it depends how you want to move. Some people want to go straight in, some people want to start slow.
Mhm. That's
So yeah,
great. So there's something for everyone. So that's really
exactly,
amazing.
exactly.
I'm gonna like backtrack a little bit
Yeah.
and because I just want to share something as well. And you said in your past that you were a cam girl. You did
Yes.
the camming. So beginning of this year actually,
Mhm.
I signed up to do Playboy.
Okay. Yeah.
And after a few months, I was like getting the buzz of doing it. I've been doing my spiritual practices for a long time. And
Mhm.
I don't know, I feel like we still go through cycles with that as well. Like I literally go deep into it and then I seem to like, I don't know, it feels like a cycle all the time for me personally. So yeah, I got into doing Playboy and I was like, this is so empowering. And I wanted to see it from that point of view. And I was like, it's empowering. Then after a little while, I was like, what am I doing? No, it's not actually empowering anymore. It's because I like to show up on like Instagram and stuff, like in my underwear as a disabled woman to show like I'm the goddess still. I can be in my dark feminine. I can be in all the feminines. I
Mhm.
feel like it's that representation that makes me feel empowered and strong. But then moving it over to a place where people are like giving me money to do that, it like changed it a little bit and it made me feel a little bit like, actually, this isn't really as empowering as I expected it to be.
Yeah.
And my thoughts might change on that again, but can you relate to that at all?
Of course. So I've done Playboy myself.
Mhm.
I've done a few shoots with them in the past. Um, when I was a little bit younger and in my mid 20s. And being on Babe Station, page three, and the newspaper, page three, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, there is this feeling of empowerment. But for me, it was like when I look deeper at that wound, like I said, I just wanted to be loved and seen and heard. I just wanted to be shining like so bright. Everybody
Mhm.
see me, please. And I think
Yeah.
every single woman desires to be
Mm.
seen.
Mhm.
Every single woman desires attention.
Mhm.
You know, we do. It's the feminine loves to be constantly filled up with attention and
Mhm.
love. She just does.
Yeah.
So thank you for being so honest about your experience and about how you showed up. And I think we have to sometimes try these things, right?
Mhm.
We regret the things we don't do over the
Y
things that we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, and if we regret it, we have to own that we regret it so we
Mhm.
can learn from it.
Mhm.
Actually, I do regret doing that shoot. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I regretted doing some of those shoots.
Mhm.
And, Playboy is an amazing company.
Mhm.
When I asked them to remove my stuff, they were amazing.
Mhm.
There was no part of that company I could fault. And I've worked with so many
Yeah.
not so good companies that
Mhm.
I had to really fight,
Mhm.
to help me remove them from my mental health.
Yeah.
People were just like, no, that's absolutely fine.
Okay.
And so it made me just respect them even more as a
Yeah.
company.
Yeah.
When it
That's
comes to the finance, this is really interesting because it's something that I've worked on. It's something I'm still very much working on through
Mhm.
finance and how I created a lot of money
Mhm.
and the ways in which I created a lot of money. And the easiest thing women are told to do is use their beauty.
Mhm.
It's not saying don't use your beauty, but it's where we're using our beauty that feels in alignment to what we
Mhm.
truly are or how we're grounded in that. And there
Mhm.
is nothing wrong with cam girls. Do your thing. If
Absolutely.
people want to do that kind of work,
Mhm.
honestly, like your path, your life. For
Mhm.
me, however, as I've been there and done it, it's just not something that I believe is in alignment to the true,
Mhm.
like, divine feminine,
Yeah.
because of the darkness that is behind the porn industry. And if we want to see change in the world as women, it's like I was feeding into something that, tells young boys at 14 years old how to treat women.
Mhm.
There
Yeah.
is no no's in porn.
Mhm.
You don't see
Yeah.
women saying no. And
Mhm.
it's like, if I want to change the world, is that something that aligns to me changing the world? And it was a no.
No.
And that's
Yeah.
okay.
And I'm I agree with that because for me, I feel at that time, I mean, I've still got an account and I've deleted everything off there, but there'll probably still be DMs and stuff on there. And I think it's because I got to the point whereas what I do on my social media I want to empower women. I'm not
Mm,
talking to women on there or
exactly.
showing these images to women. This is like for the male gaze, and that isn't really what I'm about. And it's just, interesting because I feel like I just want to share this because I've done so much inner work myself, but we can sometimes go into a different path unintentionally and then realize actually it feels like I've slipped. But it really is just part of it and maybe a realization to the path we want to go on. And when you then look at things even deeper, I can look at it like and be like, oh, well, last year I broke up with my partner was awful to me and like we break up because he was really awful, cheated on me, did all these things. I'm like, oh, maybe I lent into it because I was then like you just said, we want to be loved. Like, look at me. Like, it's
Course.
you just sometimes don't think about that until you really strip back. And once
Yeah.
we pull back the layers, we can then be honest with ourselves and be like, am I doing this just because I get a thrill of seeing oh, $10 has gone into the account. I haven't done anything, just little things like that. Or someone's telling me that I look amazing and I feel like I didn't feel so amazing today. But I think it's important to do that for yourself. But if you want to do those things from a really like strong, um, not strong, but like aligned and part of your truth, then absolutely do those things. But I think for me, I've got to that realization where it's like, what was I doing it for? What is the deeper
Mm.
meaning? And, I'm 34 now. And I think it's funny that feels like something I would have done when I was younger, but I slipped into it now. So it's
So
interesting
easy.
how we just go down these little spirals sometimes.
And look how it's promoted. Look how society glamorizes it for us.
Yeah,
Oh, you're showing this on Instagram anyway, so why not get paid for it?
that's exactly it.
And but like
That's
you
why.
said, your Instagram is a different audience. It's a different message. It's
Yeah.
reaching out to different kinds of people.
Yeah.
It's empowering. Whereas, you now are very clear, like you said, on your path. And I think we can go backwards to reset us on the path. And,
Yes.
we've got to sometimes revisit these old things. It's like going back to an old boyfriend or an old situationship. How many times do we have to go back sometimes until it's like a firm no?
Hmm.
And it's good that sometimes we can explore that from a healthy place as long as we're consciously aware, because then we're understanding it's part of the journey, like you said.
Hmm.
And I think, like, when it comes to women with our bodies and showing our bodies, I think that's so beautiful, and I think we
Hmm.
should be able to really feel safe, in our sensuality.
Yeah.
But this world, unfortunately, doesn't create a safe space for us to do that. And as much as we want to avoid that,
Hmm.
that's the truth.
Hmm.
We can't control everything in life. We
No.
can't control, you know, asshole people.
Hmm.
We just can't. So
No.
it's finding that balance of both, of being like, where does it feel good to share this?
Hmm.
And
Exactly.
that's what you've discovered.
Hmm.
You've tried it,
Hmm.
and now you can just cross that off your list. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel good there,
Hmm.
but I'm glad I tried.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's just all part of the journey. And I think, like you said, we regret the things we don't try because that could have been in the back of my mind still. And with anything, I always think that we should try if we feel like we can't stop thinking about something or we feel like we want to jump towards something, like we should try it. There's so many things that we can probably be like, oh no, I'm not good enough for that, or I don't have the courage to. And it's like, but as soon as you then turn the page and try and do that thing, that's the only time you'll know. So if you're guided to do something, try and follow that instinct, but try and think about the reasons why you want to do something as well. I think that's super important.
Yeah, and who are the people? What's the environment? Do you feel safe?
Yeah.
Those kinds of things, and yeah, I totally agree. We've got to sometimes take those leaps of faith. That's what life is for, right?
Mm.
To take those kind of jumps sometimes. And it's difficult because I get asked quite often, what is the difference between like a gut instinct and an anxiety? Or what's the difference between a gut instinct and following that, or a trauma bond,
Mhm.
especially when it comes to that romance?
Mm.
And for one, obviously, your cycle is really going to help you with that, because there are phases where you're going to naturally be more in your trauma response premenstrual. You're going to
Mhm.
think about the past. You're going to think about past relationships. You're
Mhm.
going to want to reach out to perhaps old boyfriends, or remember all those good times. Part
Mhm.
of your cycle is bringing that up so you can still continue to heal it.
Mhm.
And the way that I would say the difference between gut instinct and trauma is, like, when we have the feeling that we want to do something, it's loud, but it's grounded.
Mhm.
It's a bit wobbly, but it feels right.
Yeah.
It's like, versus an anxiety, which is, it's not even loud. It's like a scream, and
Mm.
it's shaky and wobbly, but it feels like it just doesn't feel right
Mm.
and grounded. It might feel unsafe.
Mhm.
Your intuition might feel scary,
Yeah.
but something feels safe.
Mm.
And so when you can really distinguish those feelings in your body,
Mhm.
you can really be like, oh, like this feels really scary, but very exciting
Yeah.
and really safe. And I can feel the wholeness.
Mhm.
And when it's
Yeah.
an anxiety or a trauma bond, it feels very loud, very chaotic,
Mm.
very, very, very attractive, but just it doesn't feel safe
Mm.
and it doesn't feel trustworthy.
And with that though, do you feel like sometimes with that feeling that can sort of trigger a bit of excitement because the unsafe can feel exciting because of it's more like anxiety, but people can think it's excitement. You know, when
Exactly.
they're getting a thrill, say if it is like with a bad relationship or, there's like toxic
Mhm.
conversations and it's like people and then the person comes back to them, they're like, "Oh, I'm so happy." And it's like, no, but that's that trauma bond and it
Mhm.
makes you it's just triggering some kind of
Yeah.
trauma response basically, isn't it?
Yeah, and the feminine works in these really fascinating ways. Our womb is like a magnet. It's linked to the moon, so it has a gravitational pull.
Mhm.
If we're feeling vulnerable in a sense that feels weak or in self-doubt or in fear, you're not always going to know where that's coming from. It could come from something you've never even explored before.
Mhm.
Naturally, if you're holding that fear in the womb, and it could have even been from 15 years ago,
Mhm.
what the womb does is it creates a magnetic pull. So, for example, like in my life, for example, if I take a situation with me with an ex partner, if you ever had it where but I see his name everywhere and he keeps showing up, or I keep dreaming about him, or my friend mentioned him out of the blue, or I saw his initials, and you start to see all these things.
Mhm.
If it's a trauma bond and you're still really attached to that trauma, your womb is a magnet. It's drawing him in.
Mhm. Yeah.
Might not even be him even thinking about you or the universe wanting you guys to come together.
Mhm.
But if you're in that trauma response of like, I miss him, even though it was really bad to me, and I miss those feelings, it could just be that trauma that's laid within your womb that is
Yeah.
magnetizing the experience to you.
Mhm.
And it's in those times that we have to just be so discerning. And
Mhm.
usually it is around the premenstrual phase.
Yeah.
So it's trying to really work through that phase and allowing yourself to ask the questions of, is this the universe showing me all these signs? Or is my womb being a magnet and pulling him in right now?
Mhm.
Is he good for me? What do
Mm.
I want from this?
Mhm.
You know, what would I tell my little girl? What would I tell my best friend?
Yeah.
What's my higher self telling to me
Mhm.
right now?
They're really good questions to ask because we just sit in a little bubble of like, "What?"
Yeah,
sometimes.
we
But
can make it happen because
yeah.
that is what women do.
Yeah.
What our womb does. We
Yeah.
make everything
Yeah. We're manifesting it
happen.
as well. So, what about like so say if someone's been in a situation where they have or always felt like they've been in unsafe situations and they're used to the unsafe situations and that
Yeah.
feels more comfortable. Like with like body language. Because you can think, I don't feel like there's anything here. I feel like for me personally, I've noticed this in my past that if someone has seemed probably like great, like a more of a steady, stable, grounded person, I've noticed it in myself in the past that I would maybe my I would be more like guarded in some ways
Mhm,
because it's like, oh, this isn't what I'm used to.
mhm.
And I think a lot of people probably can relate to that. And they think that, oh no, I'm rejecting him, like my body's rejecting it. It's like, no, I feel like that makes sense then if the womb is connected to maybe past situations that aren't so great, that you'd be looking for that for safety because that's what you're used to, right?
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
Your nervous system as well. If your nervous system isn't ready for that thing, we
Mhm.
have to allow ourselves the space and the time to be
Mhm.
able to hold the new,
Mhm.
the safety. And
Mhm.
that's been my journey, still is my journey. I was unsafe for all of my life.
Mhm.
I actually have only been in I don't even think I've been in full safe romantic relationships. The only safe relationships I have are with friends and my, the family that I've got. And so when it comes to, men, I'm so glad I've done this work, and I'm so glad that I've enabled myself to just dive into these places and understand my responses, because it allows me to know, like, in those moments, if I'm noticing myself shut my heart off
Mm.
because this feels too foreign for my
Yeah.
body to handle, I can ask myself, am I ready?
Mm.
And we might not quite be ready yet,
Mhm.
but then we also have to remember that we don't have to be perfect to enter a relationship.
No.
So, for example, right now, I'm leaning into strengthening my nervous system through personal training, because I'm building more capacity within my body to be able to hold more.
Mhm.
When I lean into womb healing, I have expanded my womb space to be able to hold and receive more. So when, those things come along in my life that feel, whoa, this is so great, it doesn't overwhelm me and I don't push it away.
Yeah.
I'm able to hold it and sit with it and then ask, like, these questions. And that just takes time and experience again.
Mhm.
And again, learning the feminine, language of women, yourself, how you
Yeah.
respond, your nervous system. But I think it's also really important that, like I said before, we're never going to be perfect for someone. You
No.
know, Sometimes opening our heart like that is what is going to create such a beautiful bond with someone.
Mhm.
And we can't put too much pressure on ourselves.
No.
We've got to stop. It's kind of got to a point where I think sometimes we're trying to fix ourselves to an extent that we're going to have this amazing relationship that nothing's ever going to happen, and it's not the truth.
Well, it's not human, is it? It's not, we're living in this human experience that nothing's going to be exactly but how we want it to be because that might change anyway. Our
Exactly.
perception of what perfect is probably changes every day or with the cycle.
And as soon as your nervous system feels safety in a relationship, the likelihood is you're going to be moving through trauma because your body feels safe enough to start telling you what's actually going on, because your body's like, whoa, I'm in a really safe space now.
Mhm.
I've got this person to hold me. I've got this person to listen to me. I've got this person loving me. So I'm just going to bring up a past thing that you haven't quite worked on yet because you didn't feel safe enough. And so we can tend to face some of our deepest challenges in romance
Mm.
because
Yeah.
we feel safe.
Yeah.
And so it's just playing the game of life,
It
isn't
is.
it?
It is.
Yeah.
It's a wild ride.
It's a wild, exciting ride.
It
And,
is.
being single as well, I'm 35. I was having a conversation with my friend yesterday, and I was just like, it's just really remember all these amazing things that we get to be as women, being mid
Mhm.
30s and single, because I tell you something, I'm so glad that I get to kind of know myself to this level that I desire a relationship that is going to support and nourish me and help me in those times, and vice versa. And, rather being attached to those trauma bonds.
Oh, it sometimes, we can think, "Oh my god, I'm still single." But I sometimes I get in bed and I'm like, I'm really content right now.
Yeah.
Like, if someone was here, they'd have to definitely enhance that experience, because
Yeah, of
I
course.
think it's so important to just love being on your own. And
Mm,
I think the longer you're on your own, you kind of enjoy that, but you do then start to think, oh, it would be nice if someone was here, but only if it was from, you know, a nice space, and it felt aligned, and it no desperate energy. Like,
no.
because I think, I'm so glad that all of my past relationships fell apart,
Mm,
because if I had
amen.
stayed in any of those relationships, I'm like,
Yeah.
my nervous system would be all over the place.
Gosh, I know. And one thing I always say on this subject is if there's anybody that's still holding on to like a past situationship or relationship, that is, I know how hard it is to let go. Like we've all been there, right?
Hmm.
The one thing I always say is let God make a man out of him before you make a husband out of him.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is hard at first, like when you leave a situation, or if someone's left you, like especially when you want, say if you've left and you don't really want to have left, but you had to leave or whatever, you've took the courage to leave. I remember I had some therapy last year, and my therapist was like, block him. And for the longest time, I couldn't have the power to do that, because I felt like so unable. And then the day that I did, I was like, why did that take me so long? But I think you do have to go at your own pace, don't you? It's so important to listen. But it ends up, it, it is a good thing to do the blocking, I think.
Yeah. I think it depends what relationship it is.
Yeah.
Like I think it all depends what type of person you are, where you are in your life, what the relationship has been like. For me, I'm actually a non-blocker,
Okay.
unless like it's a very extreme
Hmm.
situation, because I believe that if I block, I am not able to hold or be strong in my boundaries as to what is coming forward at me.
Hmm.
So I would use to block to be able to kind of put a boundary in of like, don't speak to me, but only because I couldn't say no.
Mm.
I couldn't
Okay.
not respond. I
Hmm.
couldn't say no. I would always just end up falling back in.
Hmm.
So for me, the blocking was just another way to block myself from growing.
Yeah.
But it depends what situation it is.
Yeah.
Blocking sometimes is the only and the best thing for you to do for your
Yeah.
mental health. I have had
Yeah.
to do that as well. When it
Hmm.
got to a point where I was like, this is affecting my mental health.
Hmm.
I've said what I've got to say to the person and they keep coming back.
Hmm.
So I've had to block,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's given it a good amount of time, I think.
Yeah. I mean, that took
So
me a long time.
and I think that's really good
Yeah.
because you probably put boundaries in, you've had the
Hmm.
conversations, and then it's got to the point where it's like, well, actually, this is the only final thing I can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is, because they can still reach out in other ways if they really want to. And when they do, you can then see how you will react, and it'll be a good thing, testament to yourself.
Sometimes we
Because
need
just,
space
yeah,
to get strong again.
yeah, yeah.
Sometimes we need that space ourselves to be like, this is not avoiding the situation. I'm not avoiding you. I'm not avoiding the input I had in the relationship. But right
Mhm,
now, I've got to choose me to get strong again.
mhm. Yeah, we have to take care of ourselves
Yeah, for
in the
sure.
best way.
It is. Well, well done for you. Celebrating you for that
Yeah,
block.
I mean, I don't know. I didn't really want to make that about me, but that just happened. So
Oh,
there we
we've got to have
go.
it about you as well. It's your podcast.
Yeah. Oh,
I love
well,
hearing stories.
yeah, I feel like, we all have so many stories to tell. And then when something comes up, it's like, oh, this really relates right now. And so many people will be relating to all the things that we're saying. So
Yeah,
I think it's so important.
exactly.
But yeah, I feel like I feel like I could listen to you speak and spread so much wisdom for hours and hours and
Oh,
hours.
no, thank you.
So let me think, let me think, what's going to be great to maybe end this on, because it's probably I don't know how long we've been talking.
I don't know.
Um, um, but okay. what would you say were non-negotiable routines in your life that has enhanced your daily life?
Wow, yeah,
Mhm.
non-negotiable. Most certainly my morning practice.
Yeah.
So my morning practice is an absolute non-negotiable. Like,
Mhm.
it doesn't matter where I am, it doesn't matter who I'm with.
Mhm.
I'm so firm in that boundary in that morning practice that it is just embedded in me right now. So it's a meditation, herbal drink, journaling, a little bit of breath work, and usually I do a bit of like massage on my face, pressure
Yeah.
points, things like that. And if someone wants to join me, amazing. If you're not going to join me, fine. I'll
Mhm.
always invite people to join me if they want to join. Um, you know, obviously in my morning routine, my boundaries are firm in the fact that I'm not going to teach you to do it with me because it's my
Mhm.
time. I'm not
Mhm.
a teacher in this time.
Mhm.
But if you want to join me, you can
Mhm.
follow, but I'm not going to be teaching you.
Yeah.
And I have a boundary of my phone. So my close family, friends, and clients will know you won't get a response from me before 10 a.m.
Mhm.
You just won't.
Mhm.
It's something that I had to do for myself.
Mhm.
So, I mean, you might do,
Mhm.
but just so everybody knows where they're at in my boundaries and how important my morning is to me, because that keeps me mentally healthy, it keeps me,
Mhm.
strong. It helps me have time to process anything in the morning that may have come up so I can start my day on a different vibration and enhance my frequency. And yeah, they're really, really important to me. If I'm on holiday, um, I'll take myself off to the beach or outside. I've had to even do it in cubicle showers before.
Mhm.
That's how devoted I am to my morning
Yeah.
practice. And it doesn't have to be really long. It can be from 10 minutes to 2 hours.
Yeah. I
Who
was gonna
knows?
say, how long do you spend doing that?
Who
Because
knows? It
yeah.
depends where I'm on my cycle.
Mhm.
Depends what's coming up, because usually when you're looking at pre-mens, you're going to have more come up, so you might need a little bit longer.
Mhm.
As you're menstruating, it tends to be more intuitive rather than healing
Mhm.
or dark. It's more like intuitive guidance is coming through for you to tap into.
Mhm.
So yeah, and then ovulation phase, I feel like because we're more energized and because we're in that different type of vibration, that more masculine, my practice tends to be, probably a little bit quicker than usually,
Mhm.
less triggered in that week. So yeah, it all depends on the phase as well and what I'm going through.
And do you so you how long have you been doing that? Have you been doing that for a long time now?
Yes. So I started to meditate in 2015.
Mhm.
2015, 15 or 2016.
Yeah.
Trying to get the dates. 2016, March 2016. It was the first time I consciously,
Mhm.
started to meditate. I fell off a little bit when just before my sister passed away, when I was in that toxic relationship. But as soon as I made the devotion to my healing, I haven't missed a day since.
That's amazing. That
Yes.
really, really is because
Yeah.
there will be days where I'm sure that you've woken up and probably been like, I can't be bothered.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
well, they might not have been for you, but I know there has been for me a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And but doing it anyway is the important thing, because sometimes we can be like, well, I don't want to do that because I just don't want to. And it could be because you're in a feeling something like you something's made you sad. But that's the things that will help you through that time. But we can easily just close ourselves off to all the things that can help us when we're not feeling great,
Yeah. I
can't we?
mean, it's two ways, isn't it? Some people go to spirituality when they're feeling really down for
Mhm.
looking for answers, and some people find it easier when they're not. And so that's why consistency is so important, because even if everything's going really good in your life, showing up to your mat or praying and just
Mhm.
feeling that gratitude anyway is so important, because
Mhm.
you're holding it, like we were talking earlier about training your nervous system to hold things.
Yeah.
meditating and doing your spiritual practice is going to do that, even in the times where you're feeling like you don't need to do it.
Yeah.
It's still important to do it because you are sustaining a new level
Mhm.
of vibration through your practice.
Yeah.
And some people who want to avoid it because they're feeling really down, so normal. The
Mhm.
last thing you want to do is sit on a mat and feel all your feelings,
Mhm.
right? You want to get up and get to the gym, or
Mhm.
you want to get up and get your coffee.
Mhm.
But honestly, just a simple breath, a simple journaling practice, a grounded meditation, learning the different, things to move through, or what techniques to do, is so important. So through my journey, I created a spiritual mentorship program, which is a 6-week program, which is 6 sessions and 6 core pillars of when you're moving through something, what pillar do you need to go to? It's called the Mystic Within. So they have separate portals. So, for example, clients who have been through the 6 with me, it goes from grounding to heart to your cleansing and protection to your feminine, masculine energies, through your crown, all these amazing techniques and tools that my spirit team gave me as I was moving through this.
Mhm.
And for example, a client might say to me only a couple of weeks ago, I'm moving through this. And I say, go back to portal 2,
Mhm.
check into the portals, which one's calling out for you, because this is something you get to keep for life,
Yeah.
so the work that I put out there spiritually is not something that just goes after 6 weeks of working with me.
Yeah. That's
I
amazing.
want to
Yeah.
give you what I was given,
Mhm.
because that's what saved my life.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
if I can give that to somebody else, I don't want you to, if you want, people come back a second, third time to do the course with me, but
Mhm.
it's not designed to do that. It's designed so you get to continue to use this as a map, as a life force energy, is something that can help you through all these different times. So you could be going through something, show up on the mat, and you're like, well, I don't know what to do with this feeling. Let's go onto the portal. What one's really feeling like good for me right now? And it might be the heart healing one.
Yeah.
I need the heart technique today.
Mhm.
It might be an energy that's really disturbing you. Okay, I need to go to portal 2. I need the cleanse, the protection, my spirit team.
Mhm.
I need to connect to that. So I designed it so people have it as something they can move through, that they're not
Yeah.
relying on me.
Yeah. And that's
You know,
easily accessible to them so they can it's
exactly.
clear and, knowing that you need maybe something for the heart, protection, you will know. So
Yeah.
it's there and it's oh, that's really amazing. And so then people can just use it for life.
For life, yeah. So
Yeah.
anyone who does the course with me gets to keep it for life, and they have all the guidebooks afterwards, the recordings and the meditations, the integration work. It's fun as well, like,
Mhm.
because it's all about the mystic. It's all about connecting to your feminine mystic. So we
Mhm.
even do a bit of like past life mystic stuff as well.
Mhm.
Um, you can connect to like your poisonous plants, your rainbow rays, your spirit team, your channel of light, sacred mudra. Like,
Mhm.
there's so many just juicy things to get really mystical in that program, and the people that have done with me absolutely love it. So
Oh.
yeah, it's
I'm
a fun
like, I
one.
wanna go on there. I
Yeah,
wanna I wanna sign up. That sounds awesome.
yeah, it's a really fun one, and it's just so magical for everyone, and
Mhm.
everybody's lives just change after it,
Mhm. I
because they're
mean,
tapping into that intuitive gift
yeah.
of mysticism and trust, and knowing that they've got support.
Mhm. I love that.
Yeah, they've got
Oh,
support. So
well, I think, like, I hope you're, like, so proud of, like, yourself
oh,
because you've I mean, I've only like, scratched the surface and you've shared parts of your life. And I think, to see you show up for yourself and show up for other people every day, like that's incredible and such a powerful space to be in. And just it's really, giving to the world, and it's changing the world and helping people. So thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. I'm gonna receive that.
Yes.
It is something that I'm proud of for showing up every day and
Mhm.
knowing that the work I do is created rather than, all learned.
Mhm.
It's created through experience and through showing up.
Mhm.
It's You can read the books and you can take the courses and you can find inspiration from somebody else's
Mhm.
methods and somebody else's creations, but embodiment
Mhm.
embodiment there's nothing else that comes close to somebody teaching through
Mhm.
their creative power and their embodiment practices. So
Mhm.
for me, it's so important that I show up,
Mhm.
because for me to teach and for me to lead, I've got to be doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so important in this line of work
Mhm.
to be doing that,
Yeah.
and being authentic. So thank you for that. And
Oh,
yeah, I'm proud. I'm
good.
proud. If
Good.
I feel shine, I'm like, it's and
Oh,
I
well,
hope you're proud too of yourself.
yeah. Yeah, I am.
You'll have to come on my podcast so we can do the reverse, and I can get
Yeah.
all the juicy gossip from you and
Yeah.
all
Of
your
course.
stuff, and I can ask you lots of
Absolutely.
questions.
I do feel like if you are okay with it, maybe you could come on again at some point and we'll
Yeah.
talk about something else because you have so much wisdom. But yeah, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate your time, your energy, your wisdom, and all the things that you have to share because it's all needed to be said and needed to be heard as well.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me express and
Yeah.
feel safe. And
Yeah,
thank you for listening to me. You're such a
of
great listener.
course.
Thank
Oh,
you so
okay.
much.
Well, thank you so much for listening, guys. And oh, before we go, actually, Grace, can you let everyone know where they can find you?
Yes, of course. So you can find me on my Instagram, which is Grace Prosser 13. That's P for Papa, R for Romeo. And my website is just the same, www.graceprosser.com. Everything is pretty much on there, but feel free to email or DM me. Some people prefer to DM me, some people prefer to email me.
Mhm.
Don't feel afraid. Reach out if you've got a question or if you would like me to guide you to a place where you might want to work with me, or my retreats or events or one-to-ones or group work.
Mhm.
I've got lots coming up in 2014 as well. So very excited for all of that. So yeah, just reach out and I'll get back to you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for listening, guys, and I will speak to you soon. Bye. Stop recording. It's a record button.